Welcome to This Wasn't the Plan podcast. I'm Callie.
And I'm Brittany.
And we're two best friends who met during breast cancer treatment in our 30s. This rocked our world, but we managed to get through it together. We've laughed, cried, and learned a lot along the way.
This is our real, raw, and honest journey, and we're here to help you feel less alone in yours. Thanks for listening. Now let's get on with the show.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. What are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about faith. I think it's a topic that we wrote down as an episode idea pretty early on, and no better time to talk about it than when we're both in the midst of some big decisions or big parts of our path. How are you feeling talking about faith?
I feel like there's no greater time than right now, day before. It feels like a monumental PET scan. I've never needed faith more. I'm excited to talk about it in like a very real, raw, as our intro says, way.
Okay, let's dive in. So, I kind of want to talk about what faith meant to us prior to diagnosis, and then we'll kind of go through like how did it change and what does it look like now. So let's start a little bit with, what did your faith look like prior to your cancer diagnosis?
So I was raised Greek Orthodox Christian. We went to church, and like I always had faith, always believed in God. I'd say like there were times when like I wasn't going to church, and then there were times when I was. I'd say like before my diagnosis, I was praying a lot because I wanted to get pregnant. Like I was really, praying for a baby. And then I got that baby, and I also got a cancer diagnosis at the same time. So then I was really angry, and my faith was extremely shaken, and I was like really mad at God. Like I couldn't believe it. And so that's when it changed for me the first time. What about you?
So I became like a follower of Jesus, like a Christian, where I had kind of like a conversion experience, which this sounds weird because it was young, but like at 10 years old, I went to a camp and it was kind of rocked my world, and that was a big shift for me. And then kind of just lived that out, went to like a Bible college, and I would say I hit a real tough time mentally, emotionally around like 2021-ish. And I think a lot of it was like burnout. I think I felt like physical burnout that happened from just like the extreme stress of the pandemic and navigating a lot of things in that. And I would say like, so the type of faith that I had growing up was a little more charismatic, and a lot of it was like emotionally driven and like how you feel God. And so when I wasn't feeling anything because I was totally burned out, I didn't really know what to do with that. And like I still knew I believed what I believed, but it was just kind of a rough patch for me. And then I think, yeah, like I was kind of I started to heal emotionally. I went to therapy and just started to feel like feel things again a little bit. And that was when I got my diagnosis. Yeah, there was definitely periods of different feelings toward God, which I kind of want to move toward now throughout that. But it, from the very beginning, was something I relied on heavily throughout my diagnosis. So, were there like stages for you with your faith, or like what were the ups and downs like of your cancer journey, and what your faith was like with that?
Well, there were when I was diagnosed, I was just like so mad. I just like could not believe that this was happening to me. I was like, I waited my entire life to be a mom, and you're giving me a cancer diagnosis with it? Like this, like I was so mad, and I really like couldn't see through that. Like I could, but at the same time, I was also like, please God, take this away. Like it was like not believing and also believing and anger. And I remember having a conversation with my priest, and he was like, why are you mad at him? And I was like, because he did this to me. Like how can I even believe that God is good if he's going to give me a cancer diagnosis and like I'm going to die and I have a baby. I'm leaving behind a baby. Like which was just like me in my like stages of grief. Like I was just like not accepting it and like whatever. And I remember like getting off the phone with him and I kind of like rethought being mad at God. And I was like, this is somebody, my priest, I've always like really looked up to him. He's so smart and he's been through a lot. He had lost his wife from cancer, like
Mm,
probably like 7 years prior. And he's
mm,
walking up straight and being there for the community and just like a wonderful person. And I was like, well, if he can like not have anger towards God, then I guess
uh-huh,
I shouldn't. And so like kind of shifted me a little bit, shifted my like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be mad at him. But then um funnily enough, so I started going to the center that we both started going to. And as I started talking to people, I started meeting like a lot of Christians. Like
mhm,
Christians that are more like you, I would say, like your kind of faith. I'm very
much
outward
later.
with it, open with it. Like we'll just like sit down with you and start praying for you. I had never had that before. Like nowhere in my life has anybody ever like come up to me and said like, "I want to pray for you. Can I pray on you?" And I'd be like, "What?" Like that's just like not what we do at church. Like we pray, but it's like us and like Catholics, like we're more private about our prayer, right? We do it at home, maybe with our spouse, like, but it's like it's private. And you
Mhm,
guys are like hands in the air, like praise Jesus. And I love it, but it's just like I wasn't used to it. And so I'm going to this center and
totally.
all these people are like we'll have this conversation then right away they'll be like I want to pray for you and I'm like okay and I started really liking that and it was really bringing me back like bringing my faith back and it started
Mm,
making me more interested in God and the Bible like I really didn't know anything about the Bible. I mean I know a little but like I had to ask you some serious
mhm.
questions about it the other day like
I
what
think
is a
it's funny
chapter.
you say that because, I like going there. I was just I don't know, I'm always very, like, walk on eggshells and be cognizant of people who might not have that same worldview. Like, some people I really admire, they are just, like, out there and they're like, "I am gonna, like, share this because it could help somebody, it could encourage somebody, it could bring them closer to God," and I wanna be more that way, but, like, you're the one, I think, in our friendship who brought up faith in God, and I was like, "Oh, I can talk about it with her," you know, and,
Yeah. Well, because
um, it
I was like, you seemed like you had a lot of knowledge about faith in the Bible and like verses and like all these things. And I was drawing a lot of strength from passages and verses that people would send me. I didn't have like a lot of context for it, whereas like I feel like you do. But it was just funny at the place we went, like people were praying all the time. And I
mhm.
remember this instance, I just wanna, like, say, like, I was outside one day and I was going through a really hard time and I had, like it was the first time ever I asked God for a sign. We don't really do that in our religion, like, that's just, like, not a thing. I don't know what made possessed
I
me to
thought
do
that
it,
was a
but I
Greek
just
Orthodox thing.
no, it's not at all. It's not. And so I was like, I was like, "God, please send me a sign that I'm on the right path, that I'm healing, because I'm lost." And I was sitting outside and this lady like just we started talking to this random lady and I told her my story, she left and then she came back and she's like, "I want to can I pray for you? Something in me God told me I needed to like pray for you." And I was like,
Mm,
"Okay." And so she's like puts her hand on me and she starts praying and I was like sobbing. It just like I felt something in me. It was like and I just felt like that was such the sign that I needed. And that was the first time that ever happened to me. And then of course like going like people were always constantly praying for you. Like I don't know if you remember like just like being in the chemo room and someone would just come up and be like, "All right, everyone, I'm gonna say a prayer for you all." And
mhm.
like and I just sit there and be like, "Okay." And then I'd be the only one that like does my cross because like nobody does that's like that's a Catholic and Orthodox thing. And so I'm doing my cross. I'm like, and then like I don't know, it was just like the first time I ever experienced faith like that. And
Mhm.
it even though it's not like it's not how I grew up, I was really drawn to it. And I was like very much like it really helped me. Like we always say, like sharing our story helps us heal. Talking about faith and like what it means to us and like how it's changed, has also helped me because like, yeah, I have gone through different points of my journey where I'm like mad. Like I get really, I'll get mad at God. Like I get really angry. Like it's like I can't see. Some people are always like, I wouldn't change anything. Like he takes me through this journey and like all of the suffering. And it's like, I was never like that. I'm like, no, I would change it all. Like I would take back, I would never want to go through this. Like this is terrible. And so it's just like interesting, like to see all these different like perspectives when it comes to like God, faith, and like a cancer journey. Sorry, I feel like that was a very
Mhm.
long tangent, but I just,
No.
I do that.
That's what we're here for. I think that's like and I think, we could go back to I mean, we could go into detail and talk more and I wanna talk more about, like, the ups and downs, but, yeah, for me, um, gosh, I would say having a solid foundation of faith, especially in my marriage, was really, really good right away. I think it allowed me first of all, I will say Brennan is, like, over the last 5 years, I really feel like God has been preparing him to be my husband through this season because if we went through this in 2020, we probably I mean, we would've been fine, we would've made it, but I think, he really grounded me in a lot of ways of tying me back to the truths that we come back to and we believe, when I was not there. I was super emotional and, um, I think I found a lot of like a lot of, I was like, "Okay, this is not at all the path I thought my life was gonna go on." I thought we were gonna do the normal 30-year-old things, which is, like, get pregnant, have a baby, we've been married 5 years, all of that, and, God is gonna use this somehow for good. I think because, like, I had a little bit more of, like, a foundation of, like, knowledge, I started just, like, questioning the character of God a little bit and, like, "Did you do this? Did, the enemy do this? Like, where did this come from? Is this punishment?" And I really went, like, into that and just, like, did I do something wrong? And, if you don't heal me, like, will you heal me through just your power without medication, like without medical intervention? I did about a month after my diagnosis. I haven't told a lot of people about this. I did something through my church called deliverance, and you basically go through all of these like forgiveness prayers so that you like release any bitterness you have, you release any soul ties you have to people. You do all these things where you're cutting off areas where like the enemy, Satan, demons, whatever you want to call it, can oppress you. And it's not like exorcism, but, like, there is a spiritual realm that, I
Mhm.
believe in, and so I did that. I did different things to try I was like, "Okay, God, I'm just gonna, like, let you do your thing, and if you miraculously heal me, that would be ideal, and if not, then" and I kind of, like, set dates, which really helps me. I'm like, "I'm gonna give this, like, a month and a half, and then I'm going to the place where we met." And then I'm gonna start, with like low dose chemo and blah, blah. And so I just kind of stair stepped into other means. But I think once I started having to use a little more medical intervention, especially I would say when I got the news a year ago about my surgery and like, you still need a mastectomy and all of that. And like, we really were shaken and we were very angry at God and very like, why did you send us down this path? What was the point of all of this if it's the same outcome? And yeah, so I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to talk a little more about like the dark night of the soul or just kind of a time that made you really question God. That's like
It's like your journey, right?
it's like where you are in a dark place, like the scary place kind of is what we've talked about it, like where you're really wrestling and you're like struggling. So dark night of the soul for me, I would say would be um when I didn't really understand the results we got a year ago, and I thought nothing had changed. I thought she was saying I had a 6.5 centimeter tumor. I have
Mhm.
the residual calcifications that measure the size that the tumor that was previously there measured. And so I
Mm.
was literally like, we have spent all this money. I went to California 25 times. Like, what on earth, God? I thought we heard you. I thought we were supposed to do things this way, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, we wrestled for a long time with that. So, was there a time where you were just really questioning or angry with God, or like, are you even there?
No, multiple times. I wish I could say that, like, I'm not there right now. I'd say, like, 2 days ago, I was like that, but the first time
Totally.
I mean, obviously, the initial diagnosis, I was really, really angry. Then I got into a better place. I started to, like, have hope, whatever, but then I go through my, like, almost year-long, 27 rounds of chemotherapy, and I have progression in my PET scan.
Mhm,
And I remember that was the darkest night of my soul, or however you say that.
mhm.
I was talking to my aunt and uncle, and they're Christian like you are, and, they were like I was just like, "I'm so mad." And they're like, "Then tell God. Tell God how mad you
Yeah.
are." And I was like, "Okay." So I, like, I went into my closet, I shut the door because I didn't want anybody to hear. This was like I was, like, revealing my soul to him, and I was just like, "I am so mad." I was like, "Why would you make me go through all this? And you're gonna give me progression?" I was like, "Am I not meant to live? Like, I need to know." Like, I didn't know if at that point I was like, "Am I just gonna die? Because I don't wanna keep spending everybody's money around me if I'm just meant to die." Like, it was, like, really dark and super tough, and I was like, "I really wanna heal." Like, I really wanna be here for my son and my husband, and, like, I have this, like, incredible life. I finally have everything I've ever wanted, which is, like, a family. And now you're gonna take it from me, like, I'm so mad at you. What the hell? And so, yeah, that was, like, really hard, and I just was, like, crying, and I mean, it was like my own exorcism, I don't know. It was just, like, really dark, and
Releasing something.
something was coming out of me, and then, of course, like, after that, I did, like, a lot of, uh well, I saw a medium, and, like, I started getting really spiritual, and then I was okay, and then, like, I, I think I had to learn to, like, surrender again, which is just like, okay, I'm not in control, like, God's in control, and, like, this I have to believe that this is, like, for a reason, and at that time, I realized for me, if I would have had a clean scan, I would have stopped. I would not have done any of the emotional healing work that I did, because I was like, "Why would I
Yeah,
pay
you
all this
leaned in
money
so hard.
to, like, do this if, like, I've no cancer? Like, who cares?" And I I I kinda felt who was I talking to? I think my doctor, actually. She's so intuitive. She was like, "I think you have some emotional blocks." And I was like, "I kinda think I do too." She's like, "I want you to go do some, like, Sarah said, I want you to do this, emotional work." So I did, and it really helped me heal, because there was some stuff I was, like, really holding on to, like resentment, and it really helped, not only my relationship with, like, myself, but, like, my relationship with, like, my husband and, like, family and friends. Like, I, like, really, like, I needed that progression to show to make me do that emotional healing, and I'm really glad I did. And then after that, I, like, totally shifted all my, like, my healing, uh, modalities. And so, like, sometimes, like, in those moments when we, like, lose faith, it's so hard to know why we're going through these, like, really dark times. And sometimes I think we get answers, and sometimes we don't. And in my case, that time, I felt like I could understand it. Um, I still look back, and I know you feel this way too, probably, is like, why right now? Like, I want to have kids, and this is affecting
Mhm,
me having children. Why now? Like,
mhm.
that part,
I could
I
learn this lesson in 10 years.
I mean, oops, yeah, like, it's just a really hard lesson to understand, and I think that maybe one day, if even if I know you'll have children. I don't know about me, but if I do, and if I can, maybe I'll be like an inspirational story for somebody else going through it, who's hopeful, who, like, wants children. is scared, and then they
Mhm.
see my story and it gives them hope, you know? That's what I hope for, but, like, I don't know, like, I don't know. So, yeah, so there's been, like, I'd say, like, 3 really dark times, and that was, like, my initial
Yeah.
diagnosis, my progression, and then, like, 2 days ago. So, I am, like, really working through faith right now and, like, trying to, like, just, like, pray and lean on my faith to get me through it. Yeah.
This
Well,
feels
I'm
good. I think thank you for sharing those things because that is, like, heavy stuff, but I know this is the stuff that people listening will be like, "Wow, yeah, mhm." I
Mhm.
think, um, the y I very much relate very much to the anger toward God regarding fertility, which well, by the time people see this, we will have aired an episode a little bit about, but, yeah, I mean, I think that was one of my big oh, go ahead, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna ask you something. Um, I I are the majority of people in your life, like, people of faith? Like, are all of your friends like that? Like, and I ask
Um,
this.
friend
Mhm.
sorry, it's there's, like, a lag here for a second. Friends, a lot yes, a lot are, but coworkers, no, and I'm, like, would consider some of them friends. So, I have,
Mm.
like, a mix, but in my direct best friend circle, for the most part, but there are even people, who see it differently or that's just not really part of their life.
I just think it's an interesting question because, like, I would say before my cancer diagnosis, before I met you and, like, a lot of other healing friends, I really didn't have any friends that were, like, religious. Not to the extent of, like, the people that I met. I have one friend who is, but we're, like, of different faiths, but she prays a lot and she prays for me a lot, and we've really connected. You know, she's really the only person that I can, like, talk to about faith, you know? I have friends that believe in God, but they just don't, they're just, like, not as, like, open about it or, like, they're not, like,
Mhm.
knowledgeable like you are or like the people I met at the center that we went to, and I found myself, like, wanting to be around people of faith more as I went through my cancer journey because
Yeah.
I don't know if it's, like, being with them made me feel, like, together collectively, like, our faith was healing us or, like, I was, like, wanting to know more about Jesus and, like, the teachings and, like, I was just, like, more curious. I was, like, I wanted to surround myself around people that, like, believed in that, and, like, because there were times when I was, like, leaning so much on faith, like, not the dark nights, but, like, the light nights when I was, like, praying and, like,
Mhm.
super prayerful, like, it was, like, hard for me to have a conversation and tell someone how I was doing without, like, bringing faith into it, you know? But it's like so I don't feel comfortable talking about faith with people who don't believe in faith, like, who aren't participating Christians or whatever, or not even Christians, but just, like, faith people of faith, like, whatever.
Mhm.
And so I was just curious if, like, you experienced anything like that, but I feel like
I think
most peop yeah.
it's like, a lot of my circle feels similar to where like, the place that we met at, just kind of like, um, outward expression of faith, and I think I forget sometimes that because I think in the world we live in, like, if you have faith, you are told to, like, shove it in a closet to operate in the world, and, like, don't bring that into the workplace, don't bring that into the grocery store, don't bring that anywhere,
Mhm.
just, like, if that's you, it's because that's not for everybody, or people have bad experiences, so, that's, I think, where I do tread pretty lightly, but, it is interesting to hear your perspective and hear how I think Christians or people of faith in general can be painted in a certain light in today's world, and you saw what your experience was more like, well, they have like this thing that I'm like curious about, or like it seems like it's really helping them, and so yeah, I think that it's a good reminder that like if you feel like someone, if God is telling you to pray for somebody, they might not be offended, they might really need it, they might have just asked for a sign, and you've really reminded me of that.
So during our, um during our journey with cancer, meeting a lot of Christians, with like this like outward faith. A lot of them would say like that they knew that they were going to heal because Jesus already paid the price with his blood or something like that, and that's how, and they knew they were going to heal. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like I don't know. I feel like I'm going to heal because I believe in the power of the human body that God created, and when given the right environment, like there's like huge capacity for healing, and I just felt like in my soul like I was going to heal, but I never felt like I was for sure going to heal. Jesus was for sure going to heal me. Like I still don't know. Like I don't know. Like I believe I'm going to heal, but I don't know what God wants for me. And I think that that's
Mhm.
like an interesting kind of take on faith. And I was curious,
Yeah.
like, what your thought on that is.
That was gonna be my second dark night of the soul, and it's been just like an undercurrent through my entire, because like, I just don't have the answer, and I think up until this point in my life, I've had answers when it comes to faith, and, like, I can make sense of the world, and I can, see God moving, and I can see him working, and there have been some really cool things where I'm like, "Whoa, that could only be God." And I do wanna talk about that. We're gonna get to the good in a minute, but,
Hmm.
I think there is definitely, even in my sphere, I have people pray that over me a lot, and, "By his stripes we are healed," and, like, "paid for by the blood," like, all of this stuff that, is in the Bible for sure, and I see it happen, and sometimes we see it not happen, and that's, like, soul level questioning for me because, um, like, how do some people who, we're close with, or that, different people that we've met through this stuff, don't receive the healing earth side that they, so strongly believed would happen, and I have continued to wrestle with that one, and I don't have the answers on that. I also think, you know, that this disease that came into our bodies, God can use for good, and he can heal, and he can partner with modern medicine. I think you and I have talked about that proverb that's like the person who is like, there's a flood and they get on the roof and they're like, to asking God to rescue them, and a boat goes by and they're like, "No, God's gonna rescue me," and, a boat goes by, and, I think about that a lot of, like, what are some of the boats that God is sending me? And when is it, like, he gonna just defy what, modern medicine says, oh, like, in my case, for example, modern medicine says if I don't cut out the tissue where those residual calcifications are when I go off hormone blockers, it will likely come back. And it's like, well, maybe God says otherwise, or maybe I just listen to what the freaking doctor says. I don't know. And
No.
so I wish I had more answers about that because I would love to see God just like show up and do crazy miracles, and things like what I desperately want is things that like you can't deny or him, you know?
It's like, is the mastectomy your boat? I don't we
Yeah.
don't know we don't know, and
Mhm.
such a drastic boat, but
Mhm.
we don't know, and I've me and you have had, like, so many conversations. We've both lost, like, multiple friends on this journey, and it's like, it never gets easier, it never makes sense, and
Right.
most of the people we meet on this journey are moms, like, young moms, and it's just
Mhm.
like, how do I make sense of this, like, good and loving God when I'm watching, like, another friend, like, not make it, and, like, these children being left without a parent and, like, a husband grieving a wife, like, I cannot make sense of that, and I have not enough I don't know anything. Honestly, I barely
Well,
know anything about the Bible. Sorry, Christians, but I really don't. So I can't give anybody advice on that. I just get really sad, and
yeah.
but yeah, I still do have faith, and it's like, I don't know. All I know is like, I'm glad my friends are not suffering because in the end, it's a really hard place to be. And
Mhm.
I know, and I do believe they become like our angels. And I have encountered some of them through like signs and hummingbirds and butterflies, and I believe that they do come to us, which I don't know what religion that is, but it's mine, and I believe really strongly in it. And I just like want to tell this story really quick, if you don't mind, because it was like a
Yeah.
really beautiful story. I was on a walk one day and I like this hummingbird like stopped me and it was like really close and it like turned and it was like looking at me and it just stood there like well flying in air. It was like looking at me and
Mhm.
I was like, "Whoa." I was like, "Whoa, this is really weird." And it was really beautiful. It was like fuchsia. And I've never seen a hummingbird like that before. And I just thought it was really interesting. I didn't really
Oh.
know what it was. And, the next day, I got a text from a friend's husband letting me know that my friend had passed away, the day before from cancer, and I just, like, knew in my soul it was her. Like,
Mhm.
I told everybody, I was like, "I just knew it was her because she was so beautiful." She was a little older she was older than me, but she was just really beautiful,
Mhm.
and I was like, she would come back as this, like,
She had
really
hummingbird energy.
yeah, like this like fuchsia. And you know what? She was somebody who was so strong in her faith.
She
Like
was, yeah.
she sent me scripture every single day. And I remember like there were times when I was like, no, I don't know. I don't know if this is true. I was
Mhm.
really, but she was always so strong in her faith and I loved it because I would get those messages from her every day and I miss getting those.
Mhm.
But anyways, my point is like they do come back
Yeah.
and, like, visit us, and, I just feel like I have more, like, angels around me, but
Yeah, it is. I think that's gonna be one of those, like, there's probably people out there who have answers to these questions, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
keep searching, but I think, um, what I do know is he is the comforter, and, like, in the moments where I should have had dark night of the soul, like my own, you know, health journey, just like God's presence really brought me peace, and, I know I just pray that that's what some of our friends who haven't made it, their families, feel that. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. It's a really hard topic. Um, on a slightly lighter note, I would
okay.
love to know, at work, we have this event. We do this, exercise called Step to the Line, and we call it doing the worm, and, like, you go really, really deep, and it gets really sad, and then my boss always goes, "We're coming up. The worm is coming up."
Okay, let's
I'm
come up,
like,
please. I don't wanna cry anymore. I'm getting dehydrated on my
yeah,
own.
so I would love to know, maybe a way or 2 or more that God has shown up in your journey. Was there like a God wink? You've shared a few. Were there any more? I've got a couple that like you knew you're being protected or he provided or anything. Um, that you're like, whoa, that had to be God.
Okay. The most recently I asked God for a sign that he was with me. And I was getting my treatment, my immunotherapy at my, oncologist office, and I hate going there. It's just like I just always feel like I don't belong. I was like,
Mhm.
"God, I need a sign that I'm, like, on the right path, that I'm doing the right thing, that you're with me. Please send me a sign and please make it obvious." So I was sitting there in the chair and, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this lady comes up to me and she's like, "Hello, darling, do you want one?" And I go, I didn't know what it was. I just grabbed it. I was like, "Sure." And I look and I put it down, and it's this, like, tiny little Jesus figurine. And I was like, "Okay, what is" yes, that guy. He is making his way through America because I saw him on the floor in my other doctor's office. I was like, "Hey, who put Jesus on the floor?" Yeah, and I was like, "Okay, this is so obvious, like, this is thank you. Okay, I feel good." And so that was, like, an obvious one.
So I like have talked about that I had a lot of like self-limiting beliefs when it came to what treatment I could or could not do or what was like for me, so to say. Like, oh, I can't go do low dose chemo. That's for like rich people, or I can't like whatever. And I just like really had a lot of struggles with provision and like trust. And I said, okay, God, like if this is for me, like provide a place for me to stay. I it's already a lot to fly out there and to pay out of pocket for all of our treatments. So, at the very least, can you help me out with a place to stay? And, I had, like, maybe I mean, I might have put a few feelers out, but I really didn't intentionally do much. And, my, like, second cousin came to my mom and was like, "I have all these hotel points." It would get her, like, 6 visits worth. And I was like, "Wow, okay." So I stayed at a great hotel, in Anaheim for 6 visits. And then in that time, my friend shared what was going on at her small group, and a guy goes, "I'm actually from that town. That's where that's my hometown, and my parents are pastors at a church there, and they have a group of people that, like, their ministry is to provide housing to people going through cancer treatment." I was like,
Amazing.
"What?"
Yeah.
So, I stayed with a really, really wonderful couple. Carol, if you're listening, hello. And,
You said you last time.
yeah, tell Scout I say hi, their dog.
We have
Um,
reverted to threatening our family and friends to listen, to get the listeners.
um, so it was just really cool to see, like, wow, I prayed and it happened. And,
Mhm.
just one of those little God winks, like, "I'm gonna provide all that you need." And he did.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, there was a time so I got obviously, I have 2 diagnoses, I've talked about this before. I was stage 2 when I started, and then I got a stage 4 diagnosis, and, when I got my stage 4 diagnosis, I was like I went by myself, I had a CT scan and a bone scan, and on my way home from the CT scan, I was, like, gonna I went and, like, treated myself to a coffee. I was at this, like, cute place, and I got my scan, and I was like, "Oh." 4-letter words, 4-letter words,
Mhm.
4-letter words. And I was like, "Okay, I'm pretty sure this makes me stage 4." And I remember, like, reading it, and I was, like, nervous, but then, I had to call my family and friends and tell I
Mhm.
had to call my family and tell them. And I don't know, I just believe that God was with me or God protected me because I was so calm. Like, I was eerily calm, and I was, like, I, like, specifically remember FaceTiming my uncle, and I was like, "Yeah, no, it's gonna be fine." And we have, like, a very, like, jokey person like, jokey conversations, and, like, I remember, like, telling jokes, and I'm pretty sure, like, everyone else was freaked out, maybe not showing me, but, like 'cause it was, like, really serious. I
Mhm.
had cancer in my lungs, I had it in my bones, my ribs, my spine, my liver, my breast, like, it wasn't, like, great, you know? And
Mhm.
I was like, "No, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be fine." And, like, the only explanation for that is God because, like, also, I I read my obviously, I read my scan, I read the results, but some things didn't register with me. And I do think I don't think I could have, like, comprehended some of the stuff that I read, like, I yeah, like, about I wanna say, like, maybe, like, 6 months ago, I was rereading my first that scan.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I was reading my scan and it said extensive cancer, like, in my, like, back and stuff, and I did not pick up on that at the time. Like, that word never registered. That I was like, "This must have been added," but of course it wasn't. It was like I was just felt like it was divine protection, and
Totally.
there's just no other explanation for me to be so freaking calm. Like, if you would have met me right after my first diagnosis with stage 2, like, I was not calm, and
Mhm.
there was a lot of divine protection at that time, but he was there for me when I when I needed it again,
Mhm.
with stage 4. It's not funny, it's just, like, I laugh to make myself feel better,
You
but,
don't laugh, you cry, or you do both.
yeah, no. So yeah, that was like a really like God moment. And then yeah, and I also feel like my last scan I had, my last PET scan, it was in June or July, I think. And like, we've talked about it, scanxiety. Just like get
Mhm.
really nervous. And I was like not that nervous. Like I was kind of, but like I also felt very protected and like very calm. I had gotten like a lot of signs that I was going to have a good scan and I needed to like not worry and and I didn't. And like the worst part from when you have a scan is like from the time you have the scan till you get the results. Like, it is
Mhm.
just the worst waiting period, and mine's always long. The place I go takes forever, and it makes me so annoyed. So I think it took like 6 days to get the results or something, maybe
Oh,
even 7. And I was like, but I was okay. Like, I almost forgot I was waiting for results. Like, I was living life. And I remember being like, I think God's protecting me again. And, we don't have any like evidence, but it's just like a
yeah,
feeling. That's just how I felt.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Those are so good. Yeah, I think just that, like, that goes back to that, like, peace that surpasses all understanding that we can sometimes feel, and, clarity of mind. So, one thing I wanna talk specifically about, we've kind of touched on, but I think there's a lot to dive into here, would be the topic of surrender, and I think it ties in with faith. Um And I think for each of us, we've had to really wrestle with surrender lately. Um, do you want to talk a little bit about how surrender and faith have like been in your life lately?
sure. Um,
No.
well, just recently, like a few months ago, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and like what I should do, like treatment wise, and like, should I make this choice and that choice? Like, I don't know. And like, I was kind of freaking out. And I remember being like, wait a second, I need to surrender. And was like talking to you about this. And I was like, this is so weird. Like, I learned what surrendering meant last year and I did it. And now here I am forgetting what it means and like having to relearn it. And for me, that's like relinquishing control and giving it to God and like being like, I'm not in control. I'm going to continue. I'm not giving up, but I'm not in control. And
Mhm,
I had to learn this like last year. Um, it was like after my stage 4 diagnosis. And I was like, okay, I have tried to control every single aspect of my life from my pregnancy being like terrible. It was so hard. That didn't go the way I wanted. My birth, had a C-section, not what I wanted, not being able to breastfeed, having a lumpectomy, not wanting that, like having a second cancer diagnosis, having a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. Like nothing was going my way. And I was like, what the heck? And I literally was like, I'm done. I give it up, God. I give it up to you. And I was listening to a podcast and the girl was talking about surrendering. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm doing. Like I'm surrendering that. And that's
mhm,
what, like when I first learned like really what that meant. Cause if you would have asked me what surrender meant before that, I would have just thought it meant to give up. And I
mhm.
wasn't going to give up. And so now I'm like, realizing like it's not a one-time thing. Like you have to kind of like make that promise or make that decision over and over again as you go through these challenges during a cancer diagnosis. And like right now, I have to surrender. Like I have this scan tomorrow and I have no control over how it's going to come out. I am very nervous for it, but I have no control. So I'm like giving it up to God and
Mhm.
I'm praying that it's going to be good, but ultimately I don't have any control. So I surrender. And I don't think you can have surrender without faith.
Yeah, I don't think so either. We talked about it, and we're like, "Is this its own episode?" But I think it's so much intertwined with our faith, because if you don't believe in something greater, like, what are you surrendering to? And so, yeah, I think just, like, having that kind of relationship with God, and I meant to say this earlier, but, there's, you know, when you'd said that somebody was like, "Oh, your aunt or uncle," they were like, "Tell him if you're mad at him." Like, that
Mhm.
was a big thing for me over the last year and a half, was, well, 2 years, was just kind of, like, allowing myself to tell him, because I didn't feel like that was okay. And, the Psalms are a great example of that. Most of them, many of them were written by David, and he is just the greatest example of, like, if okay, think about it this way. Like, you and I have talked about, one thing we love about our friendship is that we can be honest with each other. We can sometimes, like, bring gentle correction or call each other out or something like that. But, like, if you don't have a friendship, if you're like, "Oh, I can't go there," like, it's not safe, you don't feel like, you're like, and I think it's the same with God. It's like, I feel safe enough and I love you enough that, like, I'm gonna be fully transparent. I'm gonna tell you, like, all of these things. And so
That's a really interesting, like, comparison, though. I like that. I never thought of it that way.
I just think, surrender really ties into that and ties into the, like, I this is not what I expected. Like, I've tried to control all of these things. I've tried to control the outcome, and now I'm just going to trust you and try to listen and do what I feel called to do and trust that you're taking care of it. Um, and I think for me lately, I was in, like I mentioned earlier, I've had a year of good scans, good blood work, and so it may seem like, surrender isn't a present part of my life, but I think I've had to feel that more now, um, because I'm just, like, trying to figure out this surgery piece and, like, is this lack of faith if I do surgery? Is it taking it's not what I thought it was gonna look like. It's certainly not what I wanted, but surrendering that sometimes healing doesn't come in the package that we want it to come in. I know you really wanted to do, like, completely holistic treatment, and so you've had to surrender a lot of your, like, wants and desires for what your path looks like, and yeah, so I don't know, I just think it's such a critical piece of the puzzle when we're healing to just I think what surrender says is, "I'm gonna trust," and, like, relinquish and, just kind of not try to do all of the manipulation and bargaining and, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. What else do you have to say? Anything else about surrender?
I think when you can get to a place where you do surrender, I do think it helps um, release a lot of anxiety, and it
Yeah.
helps bring you back to like a peaceful, calm place, because when you are trying to control everything and all the outcomes, like you can't, and you just become more anxious and more anxious and like more control. I become a control freak and anxious. You can't have healing if you aren't like in a if your nervous system isn't calm and regulated. And I
Mhm.
always forget if it's the parasympathetic or the sympathetic, but one of those is the
Parasympathetic,
one you're
yeah,
supposed to be in. And so like there's truth to that. Like if you
totally.
can surrender, maybe God wants us to surrender, to stop being in control, to stop being anxious so you can heal. Like there's
Mhm.
always like connections everywhere. And I'm not saying that like I'm 100% um like always surrendering. Like there are times when I do try to control things, and I can tell that like, okay, I'm getting coming anxious again. I need to surrender. I need to reel it
Mhm.
in. I need to surrender. And it's hard. It feels so daunting to do, but when you just like put up your hands and say, I surrender, God, I surrender. Like I'm not giving up. I still want to heal, but I surrender. Like
Yeah.
it's freeing. It's really freeing.
It is.
If
I've
you can
always
get
thought
to
of it the same way. Like, when I think about surrender, I always think about just, like, open hands. Like, here are
yeah.
my plans, and maybe I was just, like, grasping on and trying to control and, like, this is the timeline for my life, and this is how it's gonna go, and then I was like, "Oh, no, it's not. Okay, here we
Mm-mm.
go. Here's my life. What are you gonna do with it?" Like, I don't know. So, we talked a lot about surrender. We talked a lot about our faith, what it looked like before diagnosis, through our diagnosis, and our whole treatment journey. Yeah, and it's so different for everybody. And I think all we can do is really share our experience, and hopefully they can pull something from it. Um,
I will just say that my faith has changed. My faith has grown. My faith has been shaken. Um, but like through it all, it's like always like been there. It's just like looks different at different times. And um, I think it's really cool. All the people I've met and they're like their strong faith like gives me faith. And so I'm like really love when I like go to my integrative center, and the front desk gals, she just
mm,
like does
but
like this prayer, and I'm like, where did you pull that out of? Like I could never I don't even know what she's saying half the time, but I can feel there's like I told you this like one time when I was there, and everyone had their hands on each other, and um and I was like, I felt like a buzz, like a little buzz, and you're like, that's the Holy Spirit, and I was like, maybe it is. And I was like, heal me.
Yeah.
And it was
I
really
think it is
beautiful.
funny though, because like, you said that without any you like, that's just like like, that is a thing, like, and people feel it differently, they experience it differently. Some people, it's like heat, some people, it's like a buzz. For me, it's like a tightness and like a, welling up and like then I don't know, it's cool though, and I think there's just so much there, and it certainly is a healing presence and a healing energy, and like, it's a good thing. And so I love that yeah, you've leaned into your faith, you've, gotten uncomfortable and questioned it and grown, and you've seen, I would say for me, the biggest thing is, if you are trying to heal physically, but and, spiritually ties into, like, mentally and emotionally too. Like, when I wasn't spiritually well, my mental and emotional health was just like crap. And so I think, like, we are, multifaceted beings, and to try to heal physically in a vacuum, um, like, you might not get rid of that bitterness and that resentment and the anxiety or whatever those things are, and God can absolutely heal those things, and then I think how much better your life will be when you do get that clean scan and you are cancer free, because otherwise, like, are we just gonna be, like, alive but miserable? So
Yeah. And also, like, if you are taking an integrative approach to healing or holistic, whatever, like that spiritual component is going to be in there. Like
uh-huh.
that all your doctors will be like, you need to have that in order to heal. Like you need to heal your spiritual side.
Yeah,
And so that's like um, that's also like a journey you need to go on in your own way and however that looks for you and whatever religion that is for you. But like I told you, like mine's changed. I talk to butterflies and I talk to hummingbirds and trees. I had a real religious experience in Colorado talking to trees, and I do not feel like a weirdo. I feel very it was a very spiritual thing. So yeah, it can evolve and change, and yeah, faith has been thank God for faith. Like I'm
mhm,
so grateful I've had it as I've gone throughout this cancer journey.
for sure. Can't imagine, um, yeah, the friendships I have without that component, or the trying to do life without that component. So thank you for opening up. I think sharing about faith to the world can feel really vulnerable. Not that the other things that we've shared about haven't felt that way, but hopefully this, lands with people and they can take from it what is helpful and encourages them.
Mhm.
And yeah, that it'll, I don't know, just bring people to a place where they can explore it or deepen it for themselves.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Mhm.
I pray that wherever this finds you, it finds you well.
Mhm. Have a good one.
Bye. Thanks for listening to our podcast. We have a big favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and leave a review. It really helps people find us.
Thank you so much, and see you next time.
Bye.